Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the UBC Learning Circle, hosted by the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health. I'm very happy and pleased today to be able to be joining you. I apologize for our tardiness. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. It's the reality of operating in an online space sometimes. I'm very happy to be joined by Jessica, Stephen, and Allison Howard, as well as Levi Martin. Levi is going to be connecting with us today over phone. So there may be some connection difficulties there, but I appreciate your patience. Before we jump into anything else, I would like to acknowledge that I'm zooming in from the traditional, ancestral, unceded, and occupied territories of the Hunkaminam-speaking Musqueam people. I would also like to acknowledge the First Nations Health Authority for generously funding the UBC Learning Circle and partnering with us on this specific topic. So quick introductions from my end, and then I'm going to pass the mic over to our guests here to introduce themselves more in depth. My name is Cole. I'm from the Chowethel First Nation. I'll be facilitating the session today. What that means is I'll be along learning with all of you from these fantastic individuals. Other Learning Circle team members today in the digital room but off camera are Cynthia, our production coordinator, and Winona, our program assistant. So without further ado, I think I got that down in like 50 seconds there that time. I'm going to pass the mic over to with Levi.
Hey, my name is Thomas from the Potlatch First Nation, also known as Levi Martin, and I'm an elder resource and traditional practitioner, and I do some work with John Leo, who's a treatment center, as an elder resource. Okay.
Awesome. And would you mind introducing yourselves, Steve and Allison?
First name Steve. I'm from the house of Uustukyuu Club. My name is Tutu. Myself, my English name is Steve Howard. Uustukyuu First Nation.
Uklasish Hakwa, Histokshir to Okuya. My name is Allison Howard. I'm Stephen's wife. And from the Potlatch Nation, we currently live in and work with Tloquiet, as well as sometimes a house it and different people that call us in for different things.
Yo, Estofa, Nugo am Puplas, Nugo am Amante. Atmandligami Jessica. I'm really happy to see everyone this morning and started with this conversation. I'm a mother of two beautiful daughters, Maya Sequoia and Lila Starlight, and partner to Vincent Dumoulin. And I am joining today from my home community, Alert Bay, northern Vancouver Island, Kwak, so a member of the Namgis First Nation, and working closely and a part of the Uustukyuu in my capacity as someone learning ceremony and on my healing journey, as well as working with the First Nations Health Authority, and my role is within traditional wellness. So I get to work alongside a lot of wonderful people who are gifted with song, with ceremony, and many other things that really ground us in this time in our cultures and ways of knowing. So really grateful to be here with Stephen, Allison, and Levi, and just wanted to also note that Elder Dave Frank is unable to be here today because of family circumstance. So we can be sure to include Dave and his family and community in our thoughts and prayers of what they're going through with this time of grief, and just grateful for Levi, who's able to join us, although we're having some audio issues. Thankful that we're having this conversation. So thanks for the invite, Cole and UBC Learning Circle.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, guys. So one piece of my introduction that I forgot to mention, this is a free-flowing conversation. I know we can't be organized in a circle, but Please use your imaginations and put yourselves in a circle. And what I mean by that is if you have any questions or comments or anything about what we're talking about, please feel free to throw them in the chat box. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can use the anonymous Q&A function to ask any questions of anybody that's here today. So to kind of kick off our session today, I was hoping that we could kind of start with a two-part question. One, in your minds, what does it mean to be practicing ceremony virtually? What constitutes virtual ceremony as opposed to not? And then if you could maybe walk me through some examples of some of some ceremony that we have been able to host, or you yourselves have been able to host virtually. Can we start with you, Steve and Allison? And then we can move to Levi, and hopefully the audio will have fixed itself by then.
So for everybody, it's really difficult to have any type of ceremony because we're more of a private ceremonial people. So what we do is quite often at the river alone or in the house alone and different things like that. But because of the new pandemic that we're living in, it's really difficult. We've had to reach out in different ways to connect with people. And Stephen and I are large cultural people that we've hosted many potlatches in different ways of ceremonies with coming of age ceremonies, name givings to our babies. And people miss that. We go to many potlatches within the New Territory. It was reached out to us in kind of in a joking way by one of our uncles here in the community that said to Stephen that we're going to be one of the first to host a virtual potlatch because we were talking about how much we miss coming together and singing and dancing, socializing. And we kind of laughed about it at that time. And I would say, a couple months or so after, somebody else reached out and said they really miss on social media the song and dance and potlatches and that. And we were tagged in that post about we should host a potlatch, and we kind of laughed it off. And then I started messaging from Dididot and kept encouraging and pushing. And then I started to organize it and talk about how people do miss the ceremony and culture. So that was our largest way of connecting virtually, was we actually hosted a potluck time. And it was quite successful. And like any other potlatch that we host in person, it was really nerve-wracking. And we were quite nervous and shy in the beginning. And we tried to do it the best we could with opening the floor like a host would do and closing the floor like a host would do. And we started off with maybe, I think it was like I think I gave it to 5 or 6 o'clock to open the floor for others to have a half-hour floor time. And we ended up going till 10 or 11 at night, I think it was. So it was quite neat to see, but also important for us to know that our culture is missed and we have or another. And sometimes that means breaking a little bit of rules. And my sister connected us as well as a young guy, Ren. He mentioned how it brings us back to potlatch band as well, like how we weren't allowed to potlatch previously. And, actually Alert Bay was one of the ones that really pushed to potlatch again back in the day. And, having private ceremonies and then just coming out and doing it no matter what it was. We stood strong in doing so back then. And here we are again today in a pandemic, still pushing to have that ceremony out there and shared. So it was well taken. We had quite a few views on our opening part. We had over 12,000 views. So that's a lot of people that really just want to connect.
We were just walking through what sort of ceremony we've been able to hold virtually. Steve and Allison were just talking about their online potlatch that they had hosted. And I was wondering if you could comment on how your work has changed during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, with COVID-19, I went on one trip up to Alert Bay to take some work there for 4 days. Other than that, it's all been on Zoom link and on the phone, Todd and Laylam, when the client's phone into Todd and Laylam asking or needing some help or assistance, Todd and Laylam calls me, and then I'll call a client back, and then we just talk over whatever it is we need to talk about. And then we will do a ceremony, walk them through a ceremony that we usually do in person, doing chants and prayers and connecting to the spirit,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Elder, thank you for sharing. We did hear you. So hearing both of your stories, I think one of the things that resonates really with me in terms of my relationship to ceremony in my home communities is it's about cultural revitalization, absolutely. But a big part of ceremony for me is connection. It's just being able to connect with other members of my communities, elders, participating in a generational learning model. It's a little bit more traditional. But to do that during the pandemic is difficult. Obviously, there's technical difficulties and the like that stand in the way. I just wanted to know what has been the biggest challenge for you guys in terms of engaging in this work. What have you found to be the most difficult? Is it strictly technical, or is it the inability to actually, reach out and really feel someone's presence, being filtered through a computer screen, I guess?
Well, I guess there are some time, the odd time that we do have the technical difficulties. It hasn't really, it does happen maybe once or twice. And today is one of those days. I was trying to do this, get on the Zoom link with my laptop, and it wouldn't connect me. So that's one of the things,
For sure. Yeah, we tried to work through quite a number of solutions there, Elder. Steve, Allison, what did you find to be the most challenging aspect of hosting your online potlatch? Did you have a lot of technical difficulties, or what did you find?
I think first of all was the fear of energy sent our way, with those that are really strict about what we do and what we have virtually or publicly in that sense, recordings, different things of that. So the lashback is a lot of what we feared a little bit of, but we have to remember that may have been only 1% of people, 2% maybe, whereas there's 98% of people that really, really, really want to engage culturally, whether it has to be virtually. Technical difficulties. Yeah, we've got that. So one was because we were doing actual song events in our potlatch, we weren't able to read the comments. So Stephen was singing, my son was singing, me and my daughter were dancing, so we weren't reading the comments. And I guess I didn't turn off my notifications or my vibe. It was my vibe. So it kept going zzz, 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 and then turn off your sound, turn off your vibe, turn off, and then it's still, they're just making it more zzz, zzz.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's one that we went through, and then we didn't read through it till the end of the potluck because we were focusing on, because what we did was I created and we went live in that event. And then our time was up, the next person went live, so we were watching them throughout the whole day. So after a while, somebody messaged and said, "You need to tell them to turn off their vibes." So that was the hardest part about it, and just trying to connect, get everybody to understand how to connect live into the event rather than on their own page and then everybody else sharing, because then it meant like 10, 12, 15 people sharing the same person's live into our event page. But
Mm-hmm.
that was the main thing, is trying to fully get that the notifications down and sound.
Yeah. You brought up an interesting point that I want to circle back to in a moment, but I realize I've been a poor host. Jessica, how's your work been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic? Sorry, I got so caught up with our other guests here.
No problem at all, Paul. A lot of the same of what Levi and Stephen and Allison was sharing around the technology piece. So one of the aspects that we're doing is trying to create a bit of an equal playing field for our sacred knowledge keepers with this work. And it's taking maybe more time than it should to get the technology out to folks. So I'm working with different members in our region to order, iPads or tablets and mics and stands that people can use, and that we can have a training that people understand how to dial in or how to troubleshoot some of these things that have come up and that we see today that are challenging, even when we're trying from different laptops or iPhones and different things. So it's really that technology, that literacy piece, which is challenging. The other thing that I find really interesting in my work with traditional wellness and the First Nations Health Authority is that we're so used to gathering, and how we've been engaging communities over the last several years has always been large gathering spaces with some different elements of ceremony woven through. And we can sort of get to a place where we can gather virtually in large numbers. However, there's a whole new ethical sphere of being together in that space. So one thing that came up that was interesting was around hosting. So as we were planning the caucus meeting, getting a sense of, who's the host in this virtual space? Because that is an important element for us to consider, who's going to open, who's going to start, and who's going to run the procession, so to speak. So really finding that those ethical aspects are interesting for me. But I've been really pleased at some ways that technology has bridged some of that gap, like you mentioned, Cole, of connecting with other people. So for a number of years, I lived over on Montreal and Mohawk territory, and made a lot of great connections there, different relations with the Gahaga and other folks in the surrounding area there. And I've been able to participate in a full moon ceremony led by different elders and knowledge keepers over there. And the beautiful way that I found people could adapt from their own homes and being in their own space was giving a bit of a structure to create that healing container in your own space. And then kind of using the technology to connect to the others and to hear how we would hear songs. So they really invited us to bring your bundles, bring your tobacco ties, bring a candle, bring a glass of water, wear your ceremonial skirt, and let's be here and be present. And you're listening, you're receiving, and engaging in that sort of ceremonial space. So part of it, we're using imagination, but we're also creating that space within our own home. So it's a unique experience with the pandemic, but it's shifting us a lot of how we're able to reimagine our cultures in a way to really adapt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Thanks very much for sharing, Jessica. There's a wonderful concern. There's wonderful points there, and there are a few concerns that I had. And I want to circle back to one of the pieces that Steve and Allison actually brought up, and that was this conflict between our kind of our contemporary reality. And what I mean by that is just living, living through this pandemic and trying to adapt to this new virtual reality, and a conflict between that piece and those that follow protocol very traditionally and very strictly. And what I mean by that, I guess, is those that may feel that practicing ceremony across this virtual space isn't an accurate representation of ceremony, and therefore shouldn't be done. What are your thoughts on that piece? How did you, Steve and Allison in particular, how did you go about addressing those concerns? Because you mentioned that you did receive a lot of backlash from community members or certain people, and I was curious as to how you responded to that.
I think the biggest thing for us is doing the work beforehand. So we connected with our very important uncle here. He at the time was directed by his elders not to participate. He joined in to watch because he wanted to participate as a seer, but he couldn't. So he joined in to watch, but informed us that he wasn't able to due to his elders, but he was able to donate some money and give. And then we also connected with my other uncle, who's an elder and the leader of our family, and he said that was okay. And our other Hatwis, our Tai chief here, his family was going through a hard time. They joined in to watch as well, but we wanted to make sure it was okay with them. Following our own protocol as well, if somebody had passed away the day of or day before a potlatch that we would have in the real world, we would normally go and ask permission to do so and bring a gift or whatever. So we did connect with that chief's family, and they said to go ahead with it, as long as we kept throughout informing the importance of social distancing. So the groups that participated, they wanted them to know, don't break your bubble to perform. So we kept reiterating that throughout the potlatch as well. And yeah, just doing our protocol in the beginning of it, to connect with our leadership or elders before going ahead. And remembering again that only a couple people that may not agree, but everybody else was good about it.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out a comment here that we had from Arlene that says, the timing of your potlatch was so perfect and absolutely uplifting. Thank you. I can't express how grateful I am for being able to attend. I really enjoyed it. And I just wanted to highlight that comment for a purpose, as it kind of dovetails onto your answer there, Allison, in that there are going to be, vocal members of the community that are against it, but there's also so much love and so much support for these sorts of events virtually. So I'm glad that I hope that you feel that, and I'm glad to hear that you had a really great time, Arlene. But I think in a way that conversation is important. Within our communities, this conflict between our current realities and that which is traditional knowledge. And I think that the conversation that arises from those two kind of groups is really what's going to lead us forward into what our culture and what our ceremony is going to look like in the next 5 years or 10 years. How is it going to be impacted by what we choose to do here today?
Most definitely.
Sorry, go ahead.
I also believe that, and Stephen can speak more to this, but the loss of culture can affect us in ways that aren't healthy. It's, to us, it is our addiction, right? Where we love cultural ceremonies, we love potlatches, we love song and dances. And I believe that this reached out to people from far away. A lot of people I didn't even know joined our potlatch. So that was really neat to see. We had people from all the way across Canada to Nova Scotia. We had people somebody from England that joined in, New Zealand. We had people all the way down to New York. And, so for us, it was a really good feeling on that. And I know Steve has spoken about that a couple of times about needing that connection.
Did you want to add anything there, Steve? Or
My wife's I'll fill my words. These good words. I just like to say that we as humans, First Nations, non-First Nations, we tend to we have culture as a what do we say, medicine. Even when you have a real potlatch in life, you'll have your negative need of anything that happens in life. You have your goods and your bads. What we all say is that you have more good than you have bad. We tend to live off the bad. That if we learn, like even for myself, I have lead singers. I always say I'm not a lead singer, but I believe that I'm a follower, but people follow me. And I love that people love the song. Like we all say, we have songs for this, songs for this, and this, and this. You can't just sing all the songs. You have to sing those only some songs. And the healing part is that what we had was that our people, our music songs, doesn't have to be First Nation song. Any kind of music is helps your your heart, and helps in who you are. It calms your mind from playing. Our mind fills up so much that with music in our soul, it helps calms it down. So when we had a potlatch, we wanted to put medicine into our people, not just our people, but everybody that wanted to hear the song and wanted to see and feel it. As you see it, is that we love medicine. We love everything and anything we do. And when we had the potluck, it was as you've seen on our page, you see people posting pictures and people doing stuff because it's what we miss. And it brought medicine not just for us, but for them and for our families are all around us. And I believe it's that when we, even my brothers that I have as I will say I'm just a student, but we're all students and we're all leaders. And I always say we're all leaders, no matter what we do. I follow someone in life. My uncle Levi here. I love learning from what he has to teach. Not just my uncle, but my brother that follow. And, in order for me to be seen in this world we live in today, I had to learn how to do FaceTime with my brothers. And right here where I sit, we sing songs with each other. It's because, like we say, we tend to forget songs. I forget a lot of songs. I forget the unfit in the songs, to keep learning to sing. When we practice, it keeps the mind and you remember it when you actually go to a potluck, and that we always don't want to make a mistake. Is that, like we say, we ushums, go to the ocean, go to the river, we pray. I do it every morning. We pray in the morning, we pray at night, and I believe that if we don't calm your mind, then you tend to be what we call. We all have addictions in life. My addiction is I love cars. Some people's addiction is smoking. Some people's addiction is drinking, and we 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 as we have addictions, and because we're human, and we just enjoy. And when we see other people singing, dancing, laughing, throwing pictures on memories, it brings medicine in who we are. And we don't forget. We forget where we come from. Not just for us, but everybody that joined that page. Like medicine. And that's what we have to continue as a nation, teaching where we come from and where we are. Because I believe a potlatch is about teaching your children who they're related to, and all this shows that a variety of people. And that's why we bring our children to potlatch, is to introduce them. They and their uncle has 30 kids, and their family is just growing because our people are, as we know, every one of us has a song in us. Every one of us has a song. We, I might I might be gifted in songs. I create songs sometimes every day, sometimes once a month. And I'm honored to get songs from what we call God or Creator or whatever you want to call them. And who you? I'm blabbing on a little too long, but we all have our teachings. My teaching is to sing. My teaching is to give. I've never. I just enjoy culture. I enjoy singing. And I enjoy singing with my brothers because sometimes children might get too heavy, and then to sing, let it go. Feels good.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for sharing, Steve. I appreciate that. And I really I love that you illustrated the need for culture and for connection there, and for us to continue to engage in it, whether it's singing or practicing ceremony, whatever that looks like for each person. I think engaging in it and continuing to keep that culture alive is critical. So thank you very much. Elder Levi, I just wanted to know what your stance as an elder. What is your stance on this conflict between those that say our ceremonies shouldn't be shouldn't be done in a virtual space, and those like Steve and Allison and yourself and others who are trying to bring it into a virtual space? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, uh, like our ancestors had the ability to do distant healing. Like, I mean, they didn't really have to go and connect or be with a person. Just an example, like I had a call when I was in Port Alberni, and I was just leaving for home back to Long Beach. So I got this call and they said, "Can you say a prayer for our elder?" Like, they explained what was happening. That the elder was on his deathbed. They had asked me to say a prayer for him. So I told them that I was going to be passing a sacred place on my way back home, that I would say a prayer there and a chant. So I went to this place and I stopped and I did a chant and a prayer for the elder and the family. And when I got home the next morning, they called and they said they went to check on their elder, and the elder was sitting up on his bed, sitting up by his bed and smiling. So just like, our ancestors did have the ability to, like, to do like what we are called like ritual healing ceremonies now. So, like, I don't know, like the experiences that I've had with our people, like, like when I do a ceremony with them, at the end of it, there's always a word that I keep hearing, and they say, "That was amazing," Like, it's almost like a transformation that happens during the ceremonies. So, yeah, I was saying to myself too, like, it is amazing, and like now, like, before we used to be able to go into the hospitals to work and to actually work with the clients as Uustukyuu, like, that for a while there, like, we were the last resort. When the doctor said there was nothing more that they could do, or, like, for the patient, then the parent or the family would get in touch with us and ask us to do a ceremony or whatever we needed to be done. And when we did, like, that, like, it was like the magic that happens, healing that happens. So it's, again, it really is amazing. And I'm just thinking, like, that our Uustukyuu or Uustukyuu are traditional healers or practitioners, that it all went underground for a while. And it had to go underground because of the things that we were not allowed to do in our culture, like sealing house, and we're talking about the sounds, dances, and ceremonies. A lot of that went underground. But now it's starting to come back out. And it's coming back out at a time when the world needs this. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be able to share and to continue to do the work that needs to be done, work that needs to be done in a good way. And I feel it's very important that we continue to work together. I talk a lot about sacred elements, fire, water, air, Mother Earth. These are sacred elements that sustain life to all living things. And it's very important that these sacred elements work together. But if you take water away, nothing survives in this world. Take air away, nothing survives. So as powerful as these elements are, four elements need to work together in order to sustain one tiny little life. So, and I was asked earlier if I would share, like, a ceremony with water. So if anybody has water with them, you can hold it in front of you, and I'll do a chant and connect to the spirit of the water. And you can ask the water to do whatever it is you. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
We would, I think I speak for everybody when I say we would be honored. If you just give me a moment, I'm going to go get some water myself.
Let's take a moment and get the water, and we'll do a chant and connect to the spirit of the water. Okay, so if you can just hold your water in front of you, fairly close to your phone or your laptop. We're going to connect to the spirit of the water, ask the water to do whatever it needs to do for you. There's different things that we ask the water to do. Sometimes we, like, if you think of it, like, when we've had a tough day, worked hard, go home, tired, and we go in the shower or bath, and we feel refreshed. But we do our laundry with water, where the dishes start to clean things up. So that's one of the things that we ask the water to do. We ask the water to clear or wash away whatever our body doesn't need. And like I say, water sustains life to every living thing. So we'll also ask the water to give us the good energy and good medicine that we need at this time, so that we can live a good, healthy life. Okay? Okay, so you can take your water, take 2 little sips, and that's the water to wash away whatever your body doesn't need, understand? Take 2 sips, and then we'll take 2 more after. Okay, so we'll take 2 more sips, and we'll ask the water to keep us in good energy and good medicine that we need to keep us in a healthy state, and that we'll be able to share our good energy and good medicine with whoever we come into contact with. 2 sips of water, good energy, good medicine from the water. So thank you for the water, for everything that does. I'd just like to acknowledge and thank the water, and thank the sacred elements. Like I said, water does not sustain life by itself. It cannot sustain life by itself. It has to be connected with the 4 sacred elements: fire, water, air, Mother Earth. And we acknowledge the air, the fire, and Mother Earth, and all the things that are connected, all the things that we need to sustain life and keep us strong and healthy. Okay. Okay, that's it for me at this time.
Thank you so much, Elder. I appreciate that. I feel even more grounded than I did before. Thank you. I hope everybody that is following, is watching the series here was able to follow online, yeah, I can't thank you enough, Elder. Thank you. I want to kind of bring our conversation back to a question that we had from our audience a little while ago, and that was around protocol. This question was asked kind of more broadly for all 3, or for all 4 of you rather. How do you give gifts during this time? The person that asked the question, Beryl, said that in their nation they must personally hand gifts to the person with their hand touching, the recipient's hand. So yeah, Beryl's question is just how are you able to give gifts during the potlatch, or were you able to do any of that part of ceremony?
I think that's a tough one because of the distancing for sure, but also just to connect with that, I think we have to, what I would say is our elders a lot of them were raised by their grandparents. So when you think of like Levi, for example, they have been, and so he must have history and knowledge from a few generations up of really important, beautiful stuff that we could learn. And then there's us down here with our children. We need to grasp both as much as possible of what our elders have learned from their grandparents, but what we're trying to bring now to be able to share that with our children to learn. When we had our potlatch, actually, I grabbed a shirt for, when we had our potlatch, I made a shirt for those that sang and danced, well, for the ones that signed up for the potlatch, and I mailed them to them, the ones that were at distance, the ones that in closer to our town, like the ones in community here, we were able to just give it to them. The ones in Pearl Bernie, I had a drop-off spot for those around the area to pick up from one of them. And then the rest I mailed. We had one lady who lives in Hawaii. I mailed hers to her. So we just have to do what we can do to keep on giving. We also had any other potlatch. A lot of times, some people gift money and stuff. So a lot of people emailed me some money just to follow their protocol. And I had taken that money and divided it in half and sent it off via EMT to two of the groups that children, very young, beautiful children, sang and danced for us at our potlatch. So I gifted them all of the money that was.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And I think, Jessica, I want to hear what your thoughts are on this. But before I transition there, as to the Learning Circle, we always gift all of our participants. We try and keep it as because we live in the urban, we live in Vancouver here. The Learning Circle is based in Vancouver. There isn't a whole lot of access to a lot of our guests, and all of the people that come to share on the circle, people like yourselves. So we've been mailing our gifts for a long time, strictly for logistical purposes, as we try to reach as many different communities across the province. That would be a lot of air miles for me and for everybody on this call. I'm terrified of flying, so delivering the gifts in person has always been difficult for me. Jessica, what are your thoughts on gift giving and more broadly speaking on following protocol? How are you able to adapt?
Yeah, I think that's a great point and question from Burl. And again, adapting to this current pandemic, mailing out gifts is the best next thing that we can do, or sending money, like Allison mentioned. Those are nice gestures, and we can't really follow the protocol how we would in this sense. And even when we're organizing sort of our meetings and engagements and things with, how we would traditionally go about doing things has been fractured a little bit. Like we would give a shake of the hand and sort of pass on that monetary gift to folks. But now there's a different process of waiting and then mailing a check at different times. So it's an imperfect system. So we're kind of going along with what we have and finding that best way forward. And as far as protocol, I definitely am not, I have a lot more questions and answers, but I think what really resonates for me is that we don't need permission to pray. And we don't need to use virtual technology to pray either. But as we've all kind of come together in this space that identifying our communities during this pandemic, we're all looking for that connection. And so if we can get some of those pieces through this type of medium and learn from our elders who can access technology and who are willing to share in this domain, then I think we're just doing the best we can and walking alongside each other. And hopefully it encourages us to develop a stronger spiritual practice within ourselves and with our own families, within our own homes and in the territories and where we're at, and that we can get that guidance. So what can we learn from what Levi just offered us in this virtual space? Are we just going to leave that ceremony here? Or can we learn from what Levi shared and bring that into our everyday life and share that with our children? So I think that's really the challenge, and protocol is a tough one because we can get so stuck and not moving forward when we're fixated on doing things the right way or doing things as best we can. So that's what I'd like to share.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. That's really profound. I think it's a delicate balancing act, and to be fair, even before the pandemic, this walking, I like to liken it to walking a tightrope between the really traditional, the very protocol heavy practicing of ceremony and the need to revitalize our culture and share it in any way that we can, and whatever that looks like in a contemporary context. I know through my passions, particularly in language revitalization. That's an ongoing conversation about how, how much do you let language, or in this case ceremony, evolve with time and with new generations of people? As I would argue that it would. This is a living, breathing culture, because we're living, breathing people, and that means that it would change. But at the same time, based on colonial actions of this country and our shared realities, there's a greater importance placed on preserving the knowledge that our ancestors fought so hard to keep. So I think we're all trying to walk in this space.
I just wanted to add to that piece, and another Uustukyuu who I was thinking about before coming onto this call is J.C. Lucas, and he's I believe Heshquit, and it made me think about the different the idea of technology and our nations, our ancestors, and our current practices. We've always had our own technology to connect us to spirit. We have our instruments, we have our drums, we have our shakers, our gourds and rattles. We've got, some people carry different staffs, and those are, different ways of our own technology. And so just reflecting at what J.C. Lucas had shared at one of our gatherings with the Northern Uustukyuu, he talked about how we're in this time of adapting. And fortunately, at that time, we were in person, socially distanced in a hotel space, and doing a small ceremony in there, and having sort of a gathering with the different Uustukyuu. And so he talked about using technology and really making the most of it to strengthen ourselves, to sharpen our minds, and to be prepared for what's coming and what's ahead. Because we know what's ahead is undoubtedly going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging on us, ourselves, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So let's use these tools we have of modern technology to build our strength. And he even referenced things of the past of how different nations and our people have always used technology to the best of their ability to give them that effort. And referencing the Battle of Little Bighorn, for instance, and weapons in that regard with the Lakota and Cheyenne. And so I really felt like that was something significant that I took away in this work of how we're adapting in a pandemic, of using technology in the best way we can to gather strength and to move forward and try to walk in a good way in our life and what we're doing. And just makes me reflect on just being grateful of how people are using the technology to mobilize. I know that working with Uustukyuu, especially in a Howzit and other communities, they use the technology to coordinate times where they come together and pray in unison, and they're standing outside of their homes and they're chanting. And I think that's a beautiful use of coming together and using technology and kind of bridging that virtual space with our own community space, and sending those prayers outward, like what Levi had shared earlier about, that sort of remote healing. I think he used a different word, virtual healing, but yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, Steve, please.
Yeah. Remember when I was sitting with one of the elders, and he was talking about in the 70s, he was making a canoe. Yeah, back in the day, he says, he said, I was young. I was like 61 years old because I was making a canoe. He said, I was a young man. He said, technology, he said, I had a chainsaw. Cutting up the canoe with a chainsaw. And he says, this non-First Nation came, he says, wouldn't your grandfather be upset that you're using a chainsaw to make a canoe? He says, no, he said, I believe if my grandfather and my great-grandfather at a pinza. He would utilize that pinza. Then we're talking about the 70s. He says, our people are changing, and we change the society. And every generation that we grow, he says, back in my day, the beach was full of canoes. He says, the beach was canoes. In the year 2000, not one canoe on the beach. He says, don't see canoes. You use English, you drive cars. We've changed with time, and we're learning. Learn, to learn with our society today is something that where we give our children and our grandchildren, teach them what we have learned. And some of us even back in the 1940s, I remember my grandfather would say, they'd steal in our voices. They want to record us. They'd say, we can't, I don't want to sing on that thing. They're going to steal our voice. So long back then, if you remember, a lot of our recordings is that a woman are singing on a recording. It's because the women were, they didn't want to lose on what we had. A lot of songs, a lot of reel-to-reel tapes. Some elders saying that a lot of artists that I remember when I started learning songs, I was young, teaching us on what we have and can't record. You have to listen. And then I started listening to singing. I couldn't sing and drum even at 29 years old. I couldn't drum, couldn't drum and sing at the same time because my mind couldn't do it. So my uncle, how I was taught was something for me to learn even before I hit 30 when I met my wife. And, but I believe that technology that we use today, I'm just learning about Zoom, and I'm very proud to see Levi trying because I don't even try. I just get my wife to do everything for me because I just sit here and say, "Hey, that's who I am." I love learning, and I remember 2 or 3 years ago that one of the elders, we were a big group of elders, say there is no wrong way in what we do. There is no wrong way in what we do. We just make it better and try to fix what happened. There is no wrong. We just try to make it better as we go along. And this is what we're doing today. We're trying to teach and bring along into what we know as I guess First Nation people, teaching what we've been taught for myself. Technology today is something that I'm learning, and my children probably already know stuff that I do. But there is no wrong way with what we do. And I believe that we just try to make it better. Teaching, because every one of us here have tools. Sometimes we forget to use this tool. Someone else down here brings it. Hey, you remember how to use it? Yeah, I remember things. That when I was young, we always had to sit on the floor and listen to our elders talk. Always tell us stories after stories after stories. They tell me a story. The first sentence, and they tell my brother a story. The same story, but a different way to end the story. They told me the beginning, and they told my brother the ending. So when we come together as one, that when we learn, we only take so much when we're young. So they gave me a little piece, and they gave my brother a little piece. So when we come together as one, we shared my story. My brother shared the ending of the story. And that's was back in the days when technology wasn't really technology back then. Now we share stories on what we have today. I decided I'd share that little stories that an elder shared with us in the 70s was that what he was given was a chainsaw, and he utilized it because he believed that it would make his work a little faster, move too quick, quick.
And it just feels good to use a chainsaw sometimes too, right?
All right.
Right on. Thanks very much, everybody. I know we're coming to the end of our time. We started a little bit late today, and I apologize for that. I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the Learning Circle. Thanks, everyone, today for joining. We've read all of your comments through. So much passion. I want to thank you all very much for attending. And for our guests in the circle today, our panelists, I can't thank you enough for coming and sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and your experiences here today with everybody in our wider community. It's meant so much to me that we persevered, and particularly shout out to Elder Levi, who's being streamed through a computer, through his own cell phone, and is still with us all the way to the end. So I take so much from your example, Elder. Thank you. So with that, I'd like to just ask our Elder Levi, if you had any words that you wanted to end on, or anything you'd like to leave us with before we say goodbye.
Okay, just to repeat, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share, and I'm grateful that you were here with us to to listen and hopefully to learn something. I want to say thank you for everybody that is working really hard to put all these these technology stuff get it working. And just a little bit about protocol, that before pandemic, that what we used to do, when we called into a community, we always would prepare ourselves before we get into the community. We stop and say a prayer that we will not do anything to offend the people, the land, the environment, that we will be honorable and respectful. So that's what we did. We stopped, and if we left our ways behind and honored the ways of the people, the ways of the land that we're going into. So we still do that today, even though we're doing this virtually. We prepare ourselves by, saying a prayer that we will not do anything to offend anybody or offend the land, the environment, and that things will go in a good way. And if we feel like we really need to do something, then we ask for permission before we do it. That's probably the protocol that we practice. We don't say that this is what we have to do. We ask for permission, whoever we're working with. And I say thank you again for the opportunity to thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Hi, Tsipka. I raise my hands to all of you. Thank you. And I hope to next time we meet, you can come and join us in person. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Cool.